Albert, thank you so much for joining us today on Howard's Blend. And I'm just going to jump right into it. First of all, we just talked about right before we started recording. I know you through a mutual friend, Hussain Abdullah, who has been on the show, Howard's Blend, like now well over a year ago, is on the show. So I met you, follow each other on Instagram, and you're a bodybuilder, you're a professional natural bodybuilder. And I used to be a bodybuilder as a teenager, as everybody knows who listen to the show. I've said it 1,000 times. I figured it'd be great to have you on to talk about your experience with bodybuilding, mindset, etc. So thanks for coming on today, sir.
How's it going, Howard? Thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm really excited to be here, and I'm really glad. And thank you so much for your care package. I know I thanked you before, but thank you again for your Howard's Blend protein. I did try it out, and I did like it. It was my first time actually trying out the plant-based protein, and I'm gonna give it a two thumbs up. And I'm still saving the other packet for a review for my YouTube channel, so look out for that.
Perfect, perfect. Well, thank you. Thank you for the kind words, man. Thank you. So, first off, we're going to just kind of go in chronological order here. When did you get started in weightlifting and why? Was there like a life experience that you went through that got you into weightlifting?
My first time ever, just touching the weights, I think I was about, I would say 16, 17. Just like any other teenagers, we started off with, buying a set of dumbbells. So trying to do some push-ups at home. And I remember, one of those infomercials, the 6 second abs. It's from like a long time ago. I don't know if you remember it, but I remember seeing those guys with like those nice abs. And I thought to myself, like, whoa, if I get this 6 second ab machine, and it'll help me build some apps. But unfortunately, it wasn't as easy as it seemed, and it wasn't just about the working out aspect. So then after that, a little bit after that, it was that summer. I remember because I was working at a summer camp, and I was about 17, and I went to a local Models to buy my first set of dumbbells. Still in me, I went and took the train there, and I didn't know it was heavy. Like I just wanted dumbbells, so we bought a whole set. And I'll never forget the gentleman that rolled out the dumbbells. He was like, "Hey, where's your car?" And I was like, "I was gonna carry this home." And he looked at me and started laughing because I was really skinny at that time. And I remember I had to call my dad, and he drove it home. Fortunately, everything worked out, and I started doing the basic bicep curls, a lot of bicep curls, and some push-ups and sit-ups. My first time in a gym was I was 18, my senior year of high school. My cousin was in the Marines, and he would come back from time to time from North Carolina. And he was 4 years older than me, and every time he came back, he was able to get access to the army base to work out. So he was able to bring me in, and he always looked out for me. And he was like a big brother, so he was always like, "Hey, you want to come check out the gym?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And I was excited because it was my first time. But again, just like anybody else's first time, it was intimidating, when you go into the gym, a new environment, not knowing what to do, right? And then you see these older people there that's looking pretty serious. But I was fortunate enough to have my cousin really show me the ropes. Again, I remember it was like a pop quiz. I remember every exercise we did, he'll kind of just like randomly ask me like, "Hey, what exercise did we just do?" And it was hard. I felt kind of like overwhelmed because we did a lot. So trying to remember all the names was kind of hard. But I think once I got that, later on, around like a few months later, I went to like a local um little convenience store, and they had those like muscle magazines. And I remember I bought one, just my first one, and then that was it. Like it was like a magazine that showed me like the basic movements, and the typical magazine that's like, hey, if you drink this Nitro Tech protein shake, you're gonna gain 20 pounds of muscles. So I think after that, I just started really going a lot. I remember I joined my first gym a few months later, pretty close to my high school. So after school, my friends and I would go, and we just started lifting. And again, I was fortunate enough to have my other friends that, my two buddies, Andre and Eddie. They've they've taken weightlifting class in high school, so they had more experience than I did. Because I only went to that gym like once or twice with my cousin, and of course, like they would just show me around, and it was fun. After that, I just got hooked. Like it became more like it was like an endless chase, kind of like you start seeing a little bicep peak, and you're like, wow, okay, I want to. And then when you see your friends noticing it, and you're like, okay, I feel good. I'm doing something right because people's noticing like I'm gaining something. And then, I would just always go to the gym after school, and that was like my routine. I remember I was I was pretty serious about it, and like I wasn't serious like to a point where I competed in our local high school shows, but I was serious in a point to that I was committed to go every day. I remember I was late for my high school graduation because I went to the gym early in the morning to work out, and then I went to a local GameStop to buy some games and some movies, and then I went home to get ready to take a shower, and I kind of missed the walkout, but it was all right. I mean, I still got to take pictures of my family, my friends, but yeah, I think that's how I really got started. My first time really being introduced to the gym, lifting weights. That was it.
Well, thankfully, you had like a mentor in a sense in your cousin from the military helping you out. And see, the question I wanted to ask when you got the weight set, Modell's, is that like a sports store? We don't have that. If that's a store, we don't
Yeah,
have that
so
here in Texas.
yeah, it's kind of like Dick's Goods, but just smaller. They're pretty much, unfortunately, like out of business now.
Yeah.
But they sell like clothing, sneakers, any athletic gear. Like if you need a basketball, baseball gloves, hockey pads, they sell everything there. So it's a little sports store.
Now, the question I have, was it the Weeder sand weights that you bought?
No, they weren't. They were I believe they were called caps, because I remember you had to like unscrew the metal ones, and they're like little plates. The caps dumbbell set. I think they might still have like that company brand. It wasn't too expensive because I remember um maybe it was a little bit expensive, but I was just so into it and I just spent the money. But I just felt like it was affordable. I was a kid at the time, and I remember getting paid in summer camp, and I was just like, oh, okay, I'll just go buy a set of weights and start lifting.
Yeah, man, it's an investment in yourself. So, yeah, because I remember when my dad, he helped me build a garage gym when I was really getting into it. I had the, what was it, the Arnold Schwarzenegger Encyclopedia Bodybuilding. And I was like, oh, this is Arnold's routine. I'm going to follow his exact routine. No, that didn't work out too well. But we had the Weeder sand weights where you pick up the plate and you turn it and you could hear the sand like shifting around. If you broke it, like the sand would come out. And it was in like little pellets or something. That was uh, well, it's a story for another day. You're the interviewee, so focus on you. So I guess the question is, from when you started at 16 and then you went to with your cousin to the military base and then you joined the commercial gym. If I got right, I was looking over your Instagram. Was it 2016 you first competed, or when did you first compete in a contest?
My first season was 2016. It was April of 2016.
Now, so what was your? I guess the point of that question is, what was your experience with contest prep? I'm assuming since you had your cousin and then you had your friends who also you took the weightlifting class with, and you're reading the magazines, and I had stacks of magazines. I wish I still kept them, but I'm sure you read about like the rigors and I guess the horrors of contest prep. What was your experience actually going through the contest prep for the first time?
Um, so it's funny that you asked, because I always enjoyed telling my story, because I feel like at that time when I was into it, and even from like 2005 to 2007, I was really into it because I went from high school to college and I was still going to the gym. Um, the access to information was very different to what it's available out there today. I feel like, back then the only resource we had was magazines, or like the encyclopedia, which I still have, and bodybuilding.com.
Yo,
I
yes.
remember they had these Bob Ciccarello videos, and I remember I used to love watching his weekly series, because he would interview like, IFBB pros. He'll give like tips on how to train, diet, and I remember he was eating this big, he ordered this big tub of egg whites, and I was like, wow. I'm like, that's amazing. I'm like paying $50 for egg whites, and I don't have to crack any eggs, and then I could just like measure it, and and it was hard for me because, like I said before, the access of information was very different. So like, back in the day, it was very old school. It was like, in the morning you just eat oatmeal, you eat your egg whites. Don't eat too much with egg yolks, because you don't want your cholesterol to be too high. chicken and broccoli with rice and some steak. So my problem at that time, I was eating that stuff. I did get big, but eventually, what one thing I noticed was I wasn't getting the results that I wanted. So what happened was like I was eating the surplus, but I didn't know this at the time because I was just eating chicken and rice, a bowl of oatmeal every day, drinking my 3 protein shakes in between. And what happened was I didn't realize I was eating in a surplus calories. So I was eating a lot more than my maintenance. So eventually when you first do that and you first start lifting, your body's gonna get bigger because it's not used to that the activity level, and it's recovering very fast. So what happened is when you're doing it for too long, you start putting on some body fat. It's inevitable, right? So I remember I started getting a little bit chubbier. So I went from looking skinny to skinny with some decent arms to a little bit starting putting on body fat, like my face. And I remember, at the time I was just chasing the weight on the scale. So, and it wasn't until 2007 when I saw um this this person, Lane Norton, first, and I also watched his video. The series was called A Life of a Natural Bodybuilder. And I at that time I was like, whoa, what is this natural bodybuilding? And I remember it was like, he started talking about tracking macros, flexible dieting. And that really changed my life because that's when I started to know that it's possible to compete naturally. Because I was always like impressed by like the bodybuilders, but I think part of me just never really wanted to take the enhanced route. A part of me just wanted to challenge myself and do it naturally. But of course, if I didn't know there was natural federations out there, then I wouldn't be chasing the stage. But it wasn't until 2007 when I noticed that these Lane Norton, his friends, competing in these natural shows, these natural federations, and they looked amazing. I mean, like they were like really shredded, and it was like no drug use, and I was very intrigued by that, and I was very impressed. That's when I started following his routine, his eating, his training. But again, um, it wasn't. I followed some part, but I didn't hit other parts. So when you track your macros, you have to track your calories breakdown, which is proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. So my problem was I was just tracking protein and carbohydrates, but fats actually has more calorie intake, like it's more calorie dense. So I was eating like probably like 100 to 200 grams of fat, and I didn't even notice because I was just looking at like, oh, I'm gonna eat a Angus burger from McDonald's after the gym because it's 26 grams of protein. Or, so I just kept eating and eating, and again, it wasn't until my friend Eddie was looking at my arms, and he was like, bro, your arms are getting fat, they're getting flabby. And I remember I was like, not really, they're still good. But then comes 2013. Matt August, YouTube. That's when it started really, because YouTube came out around, I would say like 2006, 2007. People started, slowly putting videos. But 2013, I don't know how, but I stumbled across 2 natural bodybuilders. One was Matt August, and the second one was Chris Jones. And Chris Jones was really cool because he was very animated and he was very basic and simple. He really focused on like, not buying expensive food, just using basic, sweet potatoes, using a George Foreman grill, with chicken breasts. And I felt that was, that I could relate to that, because I didn't have the money to buy expensive food. I wasn't a great cook. I'm not a great cook now, but I wasn't a great cook back then either. So the much simpler it was, the better it was for me, right? So I started watching their series, their videos, and they started contest prepping. And I remember they were eating like very unorthodox food for bodybuilders. So like they would eat chicken, they would eat rice, but they were able to fit in like ice cream, some candy bars, and yogurt, granola, crackers. So I was like, whoa, that's pretty cool. You can eat all this stuff. I mean, they weren't eating like nonstop, but they were showing the viewers how to really track it and how to fit it into your caloric intake. So I think it was until 2013 that year. I was working. I remember that was my first summer where I did a very successful cut, my first great cut. I remember I was 166 pounds, and my wife at that time, she was my girlfriend. We went to Dominican Republic, Punta Cana, and I remember we were just hanging out by the bar, and I had these guys just coming up to me asking me how much I weighed, that I looked great, and I was really light. I was like maybe like 162, and they're like, "No way, you look bigger." And then at that time, I felt great because that was my first time really cutting on my own, and I saw my abs. So I was like, "Whoa, this is really cool." And then fast forward to 2014, I followed this guy, the online coach, Raymond Corretto, and he's another fitness YouTuber and influencer. And what happened was at the time he wasn't as mainstream as he is now. So again, it was just really nice to see someone grow their channel. So because you get to really grow with them, you see how things change. So I was following his fitness journey, and then he started talking about reverse dieting. So that's talking about slowly adding more calories back into your diet to hit maintenance and then slowly go back into a surplus so that you can actually put on some muscles. So at the time, I'm slowly learning that it took time for a natural bodybuilder to really put on decent size. So I did of my first bulk, which was from 2014, I would say, to 2015. And at that time, I started grad school. So I had no desire to diet because I knew it was going to be stressful. So I just kept eating. I just made sure I ate in a surplus and trained very hard. And to like, even though I didn't look lean, I was still fluffy. I was still pretty dense feeling, and I was pretty strong. And I knew that underneath that fluff, um, that's where all that magic was happening. And I already knew that in order, when you start dieting, you're not really building muscle anymore. You're trying to retain as much as you built over the off season. So it wasn't until, and that was when, Hussein and I, we got together because we worked together. And I remember I was a new teacher, and he was my mentor, he was my math coach. And he was like, "Hey, I want to work out too." And I remember that summer, I was like, "Hey, I'm going away to Disney World." And I was like, "I'm coming back July." And he was like, "Hey, I'll give you a call and we'll link up." And now again, a lot of people always say that, and it just kind of like people get busy and they forget. But he was actually on top of it, because when I came back, he actually hit me up. Like literally, when I said I was coming back on July 7th, he messaged me July 7th, like, "Hey, when are we gonna start?" And I was like, "Wow, okay, cool." So then that's how our relationship started really. Started getting closer. We started training, and he wanted to lose some weight, and I was helping him out, and it was fun. His body was transforming, and Hussein, when he's really dedicated to do something, he is super focused. He's hyper focused, and like to a point where I need to tell him to, "Hey, it's okay if you take a day off. It's okay." But and it was great because as we're talking about my experience, my first prep, that's when I told him I wanted to do a show. And I think what made it really enjoyable for me and fun was because I had a great support system. My family was always behind me, but I think at the time, my girlfriend, my wife now, my girlfriend, and my friend Eddie and Hussein, we used to go to the gym together all the time, like after work on the weekends, and we all trained together. Now we didn't always just do the same thing, but like we would go together, and if some of us would work together, and if we need a spot, we'll help each other, and it was just really fun. I think I actually hired a coach at the time because my buddy, he did a contest prep. Now it was nice because I saw him do three. He went through three coaches. One was a very old school coach he worked at our local gym. Very old school meaning like he'll just tell you to eat oatmeal, take away carbs, but he wouldn't tell you how much, right? Because like he would say like eat a fist of rice, but your fist size might be different from my fist size, so that's a different portion size. But and then he actually hired Lane Norton for his second coach because I actually told him about him, and he hired him, and he came in looking super different, amazing, and I was following his journey. And because it's always nice, like I mentioned earlier, it's always very fun to watch somebody grow and watch somebody change. It's amazing. Like if you see them from starting from the bottom to doing it, it's fun. And then later on, his third year, he hired another coach, Christopher Barakat, and at that time he's younger than me, so at that time he just started out, but my friend looked even better. And I remember I was looking around for a coach, but I didn't know who. And then he was like, "Why don't you give him a shot?" My friend Corey was like, "Give him a shot. because he knows the stuff. And I said, you know what? If I saw how great my friend Corey looked, and if my friend Corey recommended him, I'm gonna give it a shot. So I linked up with Chris, and again, he's a flexible dieter, but he's also at that point he was a grad student. He does a lot of research with protein synthesis and really just into science, like it's- and he's an outstanding coach now. He's a big influencer, a big coach on Instagram, and he has like it's really again I'm very happy for him to see his business grow. And my first experience with him was he really helped me out a lot. Because at that time, even though I went to my friend's show, I watched videos. It's very different when you do it yourself. It's very different. You know, and it was just really nice to have a support system like my friends, my family, a great coach, and just really going through the process. Of course, I had to do my part, which meaning like I had to follow the plan, right? Because no plan works unless I do the work, right? Because Arnold Schwarzenegger can create a diet for me. He can come ring the bell, and if I don't open the door and go to the gym with him, it doesn't matter who's knocking on the door.
Exactly.
And I think it was really fun because I had Hussein, my girlfriend, everybody just rooting for me, and they saw my body change, and I responded pretty well. At that time when I was younger, so my body responded pretty well. I started losing weight pretty fast, and towards the end, it was really fun. But again, as fun as it was dieting, I think the harder part was what to do after the show. So there's something called post contest blues. So basically, like, because I was so focused in contest prep for like about 6 months, once you finish your show, the main question is now what?
Hmm.
What's my purpose now? Because I'm no longer dieting for a show in my mind anymore. Now what I'm gonna do? So I made a lot of mistakes. Just my first year, I was just like I just started eating, binge eating everything. So I remember my first show, it was in Rochester. Hussein actually took off from work with me to drive me. He was nice enough to drive 7 hours. Originally, the
Yeah.
plan was
Okay.
for us to do halfway each, between us. But because I had to eat a lot of carbs and drink a lot of water, like the 2 days before the show, he was nice enough to drive all the way. And again, it was a road trip for like my friend Eddie and my girlfriend at the time too. So it was really fun. And I think after I finished my show, I just really wanted to celebrate with them. And I think that's one of my first experience with my prep, having a great support system and having a coach that really fits what you're looking for. So I made sure that Chris was a flexible dieter because I knew like if I was to diet the old school way, 6 meals a day, I wouldn't be able to like stick to that because
Mm.
that wasn't how I lost weight back in 2013. But the great thing is Chris is also very into like bro foods. So he's kind of old school too. He's very into eating whole foods, making sure you get the perfect macronutrients, perfect micronutrients from fruits and vegetables, and not just eating like like Snicker bars or ice cream. So he wants you to make sure you have like good calories as well. So I think that really taught me a lot as well. So that was my first prep. I hope I answered your question.
Absolutely, man. That was great. Yeah. When you mention it, Lane Norton, I remember him, and I remember the bodybuilding.com. It looked completely different than what it is now. And I was doing internet tech support, and I remember there was this one guy. I forgot his name, and I really wanted a physique like him, so I would read everything he would do. It was his routine, his diets. It was almost like a blog site at the time that people would just post like, this is what I do, this is what
Yes.
I do, and it didn't really have
Yes.
much in terms of supplement sales back in from what I remember of it. But Chris Jones, I believe he's here in Dallas. I believe he lives in Dallas. I
Yeah.
remember him. Was
Yeah.
it Curls for the Girls and
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
And then
Very
Matt
catchy.
Ogus. He had Ogus cake, but he made his little.
Ogus cake. That's right. That was when I first saw him. Ogus cake at the end.
Oh,
It
but
was funny.
he has Matt Ogus has the best squat form I've ever seen on anybody. I mean, it's like he's doing this heavy weight and it's like perfect. I'm like, I can't. It's like a 10 out of 10. I can't see anything wrong. Some
Yeah.
people they get the butt wink or their knees cave in. It's like, nope,
Yeah.
he's perfect on it.
They're really strong, perfect, and I think Matt Ogus was the first guy I've seen that was like super, super shredded. So there's a difference from being lean and being shredded to a point like you look like an action figure. And I remember I was like, wow, this guy looked amazing. And he's a big advocate supporter of flexible dieting, but he also eats a lot of whole food. So it's not just like junk food or processed food. He eats like big giant bowls of salad, lots of rice, a lot of chicken. And I think that really taught me that, you know, it's up to me what I want to fit in. So it's not just like a super strict diet plan. I just, had to make sure I hit the numbers and have some micronutrients, make sure I get enough rest, and then that was it. And everything would just fall into place.
I mean, everybody's different, so that's what works for you. So, and that's important what you mentioned about getting in the micronutrients. Just because, as you mentioned, the Snickers bar can fit in your macros. Well, there's plenty of people that look great on the outside, and their inside, it's gone to crap. Pardon my language there, but yeah, it's gone to crap. So, you mentioned earlier when you were getting started, I think it's on your first diet when you were bulking, you were taking protein shakes every day. So, what sort of supplementation were you using when you did the contest? Only the protein shakes, or were you doing creatine or anything else?
So it was very interesting. So again, when I was younger, the magazines always say drink creatine, you'll gain this percentage of, 10 pounds in 2 months. So I would buy like the expensive stuff from GNC. They're like $50 a tub. But when I met Matt Ogus, Chris Jones, when I started watching this stuff, Online Coach, I really loved them because they try to make it as simple and as affordable for anyone. So what they preach was consistency with you in the gym, with you eating your meals. They weren't necessarily like, hey, the first thing you need to do is buy this expensive protein. It was like, hey, if you can hit your protein by eating whole foods, you don't even need protein shakes. But they're saying like, supplements are just supplements. And I
Exactly.
really took that in because my mindset started shifting. So it went from I must buy these expensive supplements to like, hey, they're just here to supplement my daily needs. So I did take creatine year round, and I know there's people saying like you shouldn't take it year round, but I take creatine monohydrate, and it's the purest form of creatine, and it's only like $20 for like a tub, and it'll last you for like a year or two. And again, it's only like about 5 grams, so it's like the scoop is very small. It's flavorless. I took protein. I took a lot of pre-workout, so I'm not much of a sleeper. Never have been, and however, that's something I'm really trying to work on now, just to improve my sleep. But again, with a 2-year-old and a little one on the way, it's definitely not something easy.
Uh,
It's hard, but that's something I'm always trying to work on. Improving my sleep. I did eat a lot of whole foods, but my first season I did more of a flexible dieting approach. So I was just so into the fad, meaning like I could fit in these little candy bars. And don't get me wrong, I got super shredded, but I was never satiated towards the end of my prep because
mhm.
I was really, really depleted. And at that point, a Snicker bar is about 30 grams of carbs. And, you'd rather have a Snicker bar or would you rather have a bowl of rice? So it's like, what's going to satiate you more, right? And I think this comes as I did my second season, I started to add more whole foods in. I still have my little snacks because I'm a huge snacker, but I focus more on whole foods.
Yeah, that's exactly. I can't disagree with you. I mean, heck, you're the expert over me. So yeah, to me, it's like if you take a Snickers bar and then like a big bowl of rice, I'd rather have the big bowl of rice. I'm not much of a sweets guy, anyways, or snack guy, anyways. What pre-workout was your favorite, or if it is it still your favorite if you still use them?
Oh man. Um I've gone through so many over the years. And I have a lot of like my coach Chris Barakat, he's affiliated with Legion. I have other friends that were affiliated with Core Nutritional. Um and that's one of like the bigger ones. So the thing with Legion, it's that they're very clinically dosed. They don't give you too much, whereas core nutritional is like something that has tons of caffeine and it'll hit you hard. To be honest, when I first took the core nutritional one, everyone said it was great, but I honestly didn't like it as much. I felt like it was all right. It was expensive, so that was like a an offset for me. But I felt like there was other things that I took that was like a better bang for the buck. So I remember buying a lot C4 from Costco because I
Oh, yeah.
remember C4 was about, I don't know why they always get like a bad rep, but for me I felt it. So I remembered it was like $30 for like 2 tubs, and I was like, whoa, what? That's a great price, right? Because I take it every day, and for me, like that really worked for me, and it was cheap. It worked. I felt it. Like I felt a little tingling, and I was able to push hard. But currently I haven't taken C4 in a long time. I took the Legion one. That was okay. It wasn't that bad. But one thing I did like was they had a caffeine free one, and so I usually train at night now. So taking that was great because I was able to sleep. Because sometimes when I take too much pre workout at night, like even though if I get home from the gym at like around 10 o'clock, my mind is still spinning. Like I'm exhausted, but I'm not tired enough to fall asleep. But right now, currently, I'm taking a sister brand of core nutritionals. It's called, what is it? What was it called? It's a sister brand for sure. I think, but it's like super strong. It's like really intense. One scoop it'll keep you up. But for me, I think my body really acclimated and it's adapted to so much caffeine intake. Throughout the day, I drink a lot of coffee, especially when I'm prepping. When you're hungry and you're tired, you just want to like fill yourself up with coffee just to keep you going. But I think right now, core nutritional is one of my good ones. That's when I buy when they're on sale, or Tiger Fitness. They have like a Clash. The flavor was amazing. So for me, it has to taste good.
Yeah.
To me, like if it tastes chalky or if it doesn't blend well, that's something I don't really like. Or if it's something that it doesn't sit well in my stomach because I do have a very sensitive stomach. I'm a little bit lactose, so like anything like if I take protein concentrate too much, like my stomach will feel gassy. Which when I took the plant based, I felt good. So that was like I'm always very worried about taking new protein, which I felt great afterwards. So it was good stuff. Everything was good. It mixed well, so it was really good. And again, I'm very open minded to try new things. I remember my friend Eddie at that time. He found this brand. He was like he read somewhere it was supposed to be like a crazy intense pre workout, and they give you free samples. And I remember he took it first, and he was just sweating. But I asked him like, "How was?" It's funny because I was asking him like, "How was it? How did you feel?" Because at that point, it looked a little bit shady to me because it was just literally like in a clear bag, little baggie, and it was just like pre workout, and I was prepping for a contest, so like in the Natural Federation, there's certain substances that they ban, not just steroids, but like other other things that they ban. There's like a huge list, so I couldn't
Mm,
risk taking anything that I wasn't familiar with.
yeah.
I remember his response was, "This pre-workout gave me nothing but cold sweats and an upset stomach." It was so funny. But
Jesus.
yeah, I mean, I'm very open-minded trying things. Again, it depends on, like, I'm not a guy that gets attracted to like a fancy company or a fancy label. Because I see a lot of guys at the gym, like, anything that they see in a magazine, they're like, "Hey, I got it. You got to try it out. It's the best thing." I mean, like I said, if I can give one recommendation, C4. And everybody hates C4, but to me, it was cheap. I felt it, and that's something that I enjoyed, and I really I would buy it if I see it on Costco right now for $30. I would buy it, but I don't think I've seen it actually. It's been a while.
Yeah, I mean, C4, it's the classic. I mean, other than if you want to go really old school, I use the original version of Ultimate Orange. Back when they put
Oh,
like ephedra in it, and I remember it tasting like Tang, but people that took it said no, it tasted horrible. It tasted like ass. But C4, I know that well. When I was working overnights as a network engineer, we'd go take our C4 to keep us awake to do the troubleshooting. But I mean, I know of Legion. I like that brand. I think it's Pulse is their pre-workout. I need to look
yes,
up Core
Pulse.
Nutritional. I think I've heard of them before, but I'm not familiar with it. But I asked for a personal reason because I'm kind of in the process now of kind of formulating a pre-workout to make. So it's a selfish reason to ask you for that.
No, of course. Again, just make sure it's tasty
Yeah,
and it's like a great blend. And I would love, to try it out, when you drop it, the release. But I
sure.
think, yeah, I just think to me, like, some people don't even need pre-workout. They just drink a cup of black coffee and they're good to go. So it really depends on the preference. I really think because the reality is there's a lot of good companies out there, and it all depends on each person. Like, how much money can you afford to spend? How much do you want to spend? Like, do you want to take it a lot? Because I know some people, they don't want to take pre-workout, and that's okay too, right? Because it's not like you must need this to lose weight or you must need this to gain muscle. So I think it's a personal choice.
And it also goes back to what you talked about, like with Matt Ogus and Chris Jones. It's a supplement. You don't need it. I mean, you don't need, like, one of
Yeah.
the things I want to put in it is citrulline because it's good for pumps. You don't need to have a pump to gain muscle. I mean, you could argue that, oh yeah, it can help enhance muscle, whatever, but it's not necessary. It's a supplement to what you're
Yes.
already doing. And one of the things that I get leery of making a stem bomb, like, C4, they throwing all the caffeine in it, is that you become dependent on, I need this in order to go work out. And it's like, no, you shouldn't have to give yourself a bunch of stimulants. Who knows what your buddy took in the little baggie of like
Yeah.
cocaine, whatever. It didn't work out too well for him. You shouldn't need all these stimulants just to go to the gym. You should be going to the
Hmm.
gym or wherever to the ride a bike or whatever form of exercise works for you because you want to do it. You shouldn't really, in my opinion, you shouldn't really need stimulants in order to go exercise. Um, but I guess yeah, we'll get back to this. So, what year did you turn pro? I don't think I mentioned this, asked this before. What year did you turn pro?
I turned pro during my second season, which was 2018. Um, things just aligned. It was my warm up show, and I did at that time. It was the NGH Jersey Garden State, I believe. It was New Jersey, very close to New York. I remember I always like to do a warm up show because I always feel like it's nice to kind of break the dust off. I remember my coach Chris was really worried about me doing it because, as I mentioned before, when I competed my first season after the show, I just started binging. And every time you binge, it's like even if you were like ahead of the game, it'll set you back a long way. And I think he was really and he was really concerned because I looked great. I was really consistent. I felt great, and he was just worried that if I did that warm up show, I would kind of like just finish like binge and fall out from my main show, my main targeted show, which was the Hercules in June. But I felt mentally strong at this time. I was older. I knew what it was at stake. I knew what I really wanted to do. So I did the show in 2018. I believe it was May. It was in May because my main show was in June, and I did my third show, my pro show, in July. I remember. So it was 2018. I was fortunate enough to earn my pro card, pro status.
And with the, I guess, what benefits does adding the pro status? Do you actually get paid for it, or what benefits does it provide you that you're pro?
The first benefit is you go first in the show. So when you're an amateur, especially with the bodybuilding class, you're just waiting and waiting. I remember I was just waiting my first season. I was like the last guys to go. But when you're a pro, you do go first. So you go out first, you do your prejudging first, and then you do your routines, you get the awards, and you're done. And then it comes amateur. But it's also you're eligible to earn money prizes depending on the show and the federations. The bigger the show, so it's pretty much every year, every it's an annual thing. You'll have these big world competition shows. They're kind of like the Super Bowls of bodybuilding. Like they'll have like the Pro Universe, the Yorton Cup, IP Worlds, WMBF Worlds, and these are like the biggest shows because you have like top contenders coming from like all over the world competing, and that's something was really nice because I got to watch the worlds twice, and it was amazing. I mean, seeing international bodybuilders coming from like China, Japan, Korea, Spain,
Wow.
the UK. I mean, I think the bodybuilding in UK is just phenomenal. Like they're just like it's a whole different league out there. And of course, like us in the States, it's just really nice to see. And honestly, at least in the natural bodybuilding community, I feel like the community is so nice because you meet so many like nice um like average Joe, regular people with regular lives. When I say this, I mean like even though they're pros, they're not. Their job is not just to wake up, eat 6 meals, and go to the gym and go to bed. It's like their dads. They have real jobs. They're teachers, police officers, students, doctors. They have multiple kids, and I think that's something that's very empowering for me. Each time I see someone like that, especially parents. I see dads competing. Um, what I always try to do is to find a more balanced lifestyle. Meaning, like, do not let bodybuilding take over my life. Meaning, like, I have to do what I do, but still be present with my family and friends. Meaning, like, I have to be around. I can't just shut them out because I have to train or I'm competing for a show. Like, I could still enjoy, going to parties with my friends. Of course, I can't eat the stuff they're eating, but I could still be present and not just necessarily walk around with like 10 meals and, a water jug. Like I could be, active. And I think seeing people do that at a high level, winning high level shows, and it's amazing. And I think this is one of the only sports where you truly get better with age. Your muscle gets denser. Time is your friend. If you're gaining weight, if you're losing weight, there's no fast track. I don't care like what kind of a fat burners you're taking because again, it's just a supplement. If you're dieting right, if you're allowing yourself enough time, you don't need a fat burner.
Yeah.
I think the fat burner is kind of like the icing on the cake to kind of like take off that extra last because the leaner you get, the more stubborn your body's gonna lose those extra pounds because it's really holding to survive. Like it's like I don't want to let go, and that's when you really need that fat burn to kind of help push. And at that point of your prep, each pound is like super visual because like the
Mm-hmm.
first 5-10 pounds you lose, you'll notice it, but it's not like night and day difference. But
Yeah.
towards the end, the last 5 weeks, every little pound, you're gonna see extra lines. You're gonna look extra harder. You'll get flat because you're really depleted, and that's when you really want to implement these types of supplements. It's not something you want to kind of use right off the bat, like, hey, I'm gonna start dieting today, day one. Let me just take my fat burner first. No, it should be like, let me wake up, get enough sleep, eat a good amount of healthy calories, and let me go to the gym, drink some water. Day one complete, and then it should be like that.
It's a great philosophy, man. Again, there was a question that you are out of what I was going to say. Oh, yes, that was it. The testing for the natural bodybuilding. Now, when I first heard of natural bodybuilding organizations and leagues, their testing was just lie detector test. It would just ask you, hey, do you take performance enhancing drug? Yes or no, and that would depend whether you were accepted or not. But for you, were they taking urine samples? How were they verifying that you were indeed natural?
So the polygraph is still in effect. It's the first one. Now this is very expensive. So like if you're competing in different organizations, you have to buy different cards. Like kind of like a membership fee,
Mm-hmm.
and you do have to pay because certain federations have their own polygraph um testers. So for example, if I got a polygraph test 2 weeks ago, they say you're good within like I think 6 weeks. So like if you compete again in the same federation within the 6 week period, you don't have to get polygraph again. But
Mm,
some federations they want their own people. But that's the first step, getting polygraph, and again it's very intimidating.
yeah,
You
I
like
bet.
sometimes they ask you some real questions and they ask you hard questions, not about drugs, but like in life in general.
Hmm.
So questions like because they want to make sure it's working, right? So it's kind of question like, have you ever cheated on a test? Have you ever lied and called out of work? So like, in your head, you're like, oh man, what should I do? And
Yeah.
and they ask you these real sensitive questions because they want you to see if you're lying or not. And Yes, I called out. I lied and called out of work a few times. But and they're very intimidating, and they'll tell you like, hey, listen, like it's showing like I see movement, just relax a little bit. But then the second time, once you win your show, um, they make sure they actually go with you, give you a cup, and they take a urine sample, and then like once you get your results and everything, then you're good to be a pro.
Nice. Okay. Oh boy, yeah, man, but a polygraph though is so subjective because even the reader, the person interpreting it, it's like they could say, "Oh, they're lying," when you're not. And then, like as you said, you're
Yeah.
really, really nervous. They're asking all these personal
Yes.
questions and everything. So, and I guess they're doing the best with what they can.
Yeah.
What is if you are planning to do another competition? I know, congratulations, you have a little one on the way. I believe it's a girl, and you already have your little boy Noah, who's about the same age as my son Sam. Sam is 27 months old, so I think right about the same
Yeah.
age.
Yeah. Yep.
So congratulations, big
Thank you.
congratulations.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
With all that going on, do you plan on competing again? And if so, do you know when?
Yes. So when I finished 2018, um, I'm a guy that likes to plan ahead. So what happened was when I went to the Worlds, WMBF Worlds, they alternate every year. So one year they'll do New York City, which is home. The next year they'll do like either California or Las Vegas, and they'll come back on the East Coast. So they alternate between East Coast and West Coast. So when I finished 2018, when I stepped off stage, I knew I was gonna take some time off, because my wife was nice and kind enough to give me that season. Because when I finished 2016, I was like, I'm going back to 2018 because I needed to take some time off to rebuild, and I'm going back on. And she was like, all right. And we got married at 2017, and she was like, let's do it. And then she was like, but that's where we want to start a family. And so my goal was always to start a family, have two kids, take care of whatever I need to take care of, and then jump back on. So I gave myself like a timeline, and I did the math. So like at that time, I was like, hey, listen, if I compete in 2023, it's 5 years off. The Worlds will be back in New York City, and everything, the stars will align. And a lot has happened within the last few years. And it's funny, I remember my coach was asking me, when are you planning to compete again? Because I remember this gentleman, Jimmy, Alpha Designs photographer, really nice guy. He was taking photos of my teammates, and he was offering. And my coach was like, "Do you want to get a photo shoot?" And usually when you want to preserve all the memories you have because you're so like lean, and it's not an easy task. And I remember I said I couldn't because the day they planned, when I finished my main show, it was exactly Father's Day the next day.
Mm.
And I think um it's funny, my first show the next day was Mother's Day, and then the second show it was Father's Day, and then the following week I had my pro show because I wanted to see how I would stack up. And I remember I told my coach like, hey, listen, I really want to go, but it's Father's Day, and I'm a family guy, so like I really want to spend time with my family. I want to cook for my family at the time, and I was like, I'll just take it next time. And then he was like, when are you planning to compete again? And I told him 2023, and then he laughed. He was like, "That's so long, 5 years." And every time I tell somebody 5 years, they laugh because usually what happened is when you give yourself that far time off, things happen. 5 years become 6 years, 6 years
Hmm.
become 10. Next thing you know, you're just like, "Hey, listen, I don't want to do it anymore."
Yeah.
But as of now, I'm planning to compete in 2023. I still think about it all the time when I'm working out right now, because I'm just really visualizing what I need to do to improve myself. And unfortunately, in 2023, the world's not going to be New York City. Due to COVID last year, a lot of shows were canceled.
Hmm.
So it's actually it was supposed to be in New York this year again, but they're going back to the West Coast this year.
Hmm.
So in 2023, it's going to be back in the West Coast. But it kind of worked out too because usually I'm planning to go for a long prep. So I was going to start prepping right after Thanksgiving in 2022. Usually I give myself 26 weeks, but this time I want to give myself more time. So I want to give myself allow some diet breaks because I feel like sometimes when things don't go according to plan, you want to give yourself more time. Otherwise, you stress your body out a lot, mentally and physically. But right now, I'm planning to step on during the spring of 2023. Hopefully, things go well. I'll earn my WNBF from a different federation because that's the main show I really want to do. And then I'll kind of take a diet break in the summer. And I've never prepped during the summer before, but I'm planning to do some fall shows too, like the Yorton Cup, maybe the Mr. America in New Jersey. I was thinking about that. That looks cool, and it's close to home. So,
Nice.
one thing is I can't afford to travel
Yeah.
just because it's so expensive when you're doing the shows already. And then I want to make it as easy as it is for my family
Mm-hmm.
because I don't want everybody like paying like arm and leg sitting there for like 12 hours just watching me. And and again, I have a great support, like amazing family and friends, amazing teammates that really support well, and it's always fun. But I'm planning to compete in 2023 to answer the question.
Awesome. Man, I'd love to come see you then, man. It's been a while since I've been to a bodybuilding show. I think the last one I went to was the well, the last really, really big show I went to was the Arnold Classic in Columbus, Ohio in 2008. And that was actually
Wow.
when I first thought of like, well, the oldest memory I have of wanting to start a supplement company was when I was seeing all Muscle Tech was big. You know, they had Jay
Yeah.
Cutler and oh gosh, now my mind went blank of all the different people they have. Um,
That's Dexter Jackson,
yep, Dexter
the Blade,
Jackson,
the
and
Blade. That was the year I think he might have won
he won
2008,
that year.
the Olympia. Yeah,
Yep,
he's
yep.
always win the Arnold, and again, like to me, he's one of like the amazing. He's a goat because he's competing at such an old age and still competing at a high level,
He's
and he
won like
looks.
over 50 shows or something like just some
Yeah,
ungodly number.
yeah,
But yeah, I think what I remember from that show is that that's when they were still giving out a bunch of samples. The supplement companies. I had 3 suitcases full of samples, and I couldn't finish them all. And it's like there's so many of them; they all expire before I could finish them. It was stacked up. But 2023, that's when your next plan on doing it. So, question more about like your, I guess your profession. Are you still a teacher? You said you were a teacher with Hussain. Are you still a teacher right now?
I still work in the same school, but I'm actually a school counselor now. So what went well in 2016 when I competed was I finished grad school and I knew I had time, and that's when things just really went well. Like 2016, I finished grad school. I did my first season, and then I think after my season, I remember I was in an office with Hussein, and I was just sitting there, and I was like super. I was on cloud nine. Like I finished school. I did well with bodybuilding. I finally did it because I was like one of a goal of mine to compete, and I finally did it because I finished school and I had time. And I remember I was like, I think I'm gonna propose. I remember Hussein across from me, yeah, go for it. And we made plans of like checking out different rings and everything. So it was, and this is what I mean when you have like real close friends that become family and with supporting you, and it was amazing. And that year I went to Antigua with Maggie and I proposed, and then when I came back, and then my principal offered me a job to transition from a teacher to counselor, and I think that was everything just aligned. Everything went well. Very fortunate. Um, but I still work in the school now, and one of my things was last year, well, a few months ago, I was in a graduate program, and I went back for my leadership administration license, and that's why I knew I needed to take 5 years off because I knew I want to have kids. I knew I want to take time off to kind of just enjoy life a little bit. I knew I want to go back to school. I knew I want to start other investments with HA Homes. I knew there were a lot of things I want to set in motion. And again, I'm
Mhm.
always very fortunate with the people around me. I know Hussein says it all the time. He's like, because I'm so positive, and positive energy attracts other positive energy. But I just feel very fortunate because I've, Hussein not just only helped me, with investments recently, but like I feel like he's like a big brother that really looked out for me from my day one. When I say this, I mean like when you become a teacher at that age, I was single. I wasn't single, but I wasn't married, and when you make a lot of money, you just tend to just blow it all out. And Hussein was always, he didn't have to. He really didn't have to. And that's the thing about Hussein. He always helps out. He always looks out for people. He really took his time to tell me about my contribution, my retirement. He's like, I'll never forget what he said. He's like, you're not married. You don't have any loans. Just max out. Max out. And I remember, and this is a true story. I remember when I maxed out my check, then they took away so much money per check. I woke up one Saturday, the next Saturday morning, like kind of like bummed out. I was like, dang, like I went from like $1,300 a check to like $900. It was rough. But fast forward, time goes by really fast, and especially the older you get, the faster time goes by.
Mm-hmm.
And everything's good now. The nest egg is building itself now. And again, I always thank H. And even when my principal offered me the job, she gave me, she was like, hey, it was my year to get tenure, so I'll be a permanent teacher. And I remember I asked Hussein, like, what should I do? Should I stay 1 more year as a teacher, or should I take the counselor job? And he was like, just take the job, because you never know what's going to happen. Meaning, like, the city might have a hiring freeze. And then he said that even if anybody wants to hire you, it'll be impossible.
Mm-hmm.
So I listened to him. I took the job. I didn't get tenure as a teacher. Honestly, I didn't think it was going to happen, but there was a real hiring freeze. And they just lifted the freeze like maybe like a month ago.
Wow.
And this was 2016. So this is what I mean when H. Hussein really looked out for me. Like he's like a little angel on my shoulder, just like really pointing me the right direction. Again, of course, he always says, like, you're the one that chooses to follow it or not. But I just feel like if he never pointed me these options or showed me anything, I wouldn't even really think about it, So, I'm always very fortunate. Like, he's definitely a big brother, and appreciate everything he's done. I appreciate everything that everybody has done right now in my life, like career-wise. I'm fortunate enough to meet a lot of great, positive people in my circle.
Yeah, I mean, Hussein, I've known him not near as long as you have, and not as intimate a relationship. But yeah, he's a good man. He gets a laugh at it because I call him a mensch. It's like Yiddish for like a good person. So, and I've also called him like a Jedi. He's like the Master Yoda, because he's given me advice in the short time. He hit me up in DM and say, "Hey, Howard, I suggest you may want to try this or do this." Even when I invest with him, he's like, "Hey, invest this way. Don't invest that way." So, yeah, he's a good person, a good man.
Mm-hmm.
Well, sir, that's pretty much all I had for this interview, man. Did you have anything you wanted to close with? Anything else you wanted to say?
I just want to thank you for really taking the time out interviewing me. I feel like, it's something I always love. I love sharing my story, because I just want everyone to, or the listeners to know that just because you're not there yet right now, doesn't mean that you're not going to get there one day. So just keep working. Just keep believing in yourself. Life is going to be filled with obstacles and challenges, but at the end of the day, we're going to endure everything, and we'll all make it.
Well said, sir. Nothing else to add to that. Well, thank you so much for your time today, sir. We will keep in touch, because I'd love to have you back on the show, and then looking forward to 2023, seeing you on stage, man. So thank you again for your time, sir.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Take care.